For centuries, the pharaohs of Egypt believed their kingdom was eternal, protected by gods and deserts. But while they built monuments to their own permanence, a quiet revolution was taking place in the north. This is the story of the Hyksos, a people once called barbarian invaders, but now revealed as the unlikely architects of Egypt's golden age. For a long time, the official story, written by their enemies, painted the Hyksos as a destructive horde that swept down from the Levant, burning cities and enslaving the people. But archaeology tells a much more interesting tale. Excavations at the city of Avaris in the Nile Delta showed that the Hyksos didn't arrive with swords drawn. They were Semitic-speaking peoples, traders, sailors, and craftsmen from the Near East who slowly migrated into Egypt over generations. Their city, Avaris, grew from a small immigrant settlement into a bustling international Portuguese. These newcomers didn't just live in Egypt. They became part of it. They adopted Egyptian customs, married into local families, and climbed the ladder of power. So when the central government of the Middle Kingdom started to crumble around 1650 BCE, the leaders of this thriving community saw their chance. A man named Salitus took the throne, but he didn't destroy the Egyptian system. He became part of it. He declared himself Pharaoh, adopted the traditional titles, and ruled from his capital at Avaris. For the first time in history, foreigners sat on the throne of Horus, controlling the rich lands of Lower Egypt and its vital trade routes. The native Egyptian kings were forced south to the city of Thebes, reduced to paying tribute to these new masters of the Nile. The Hyksos weren't just conquerors, they were brilliant integrators. They didn't erase Egyptian culture. They fused it with their own. They identified their storm god, Baal, with the Egyptian god of chaos, Set, and made him the patron deity of their dynasty. They used hieroglyphs for their administration and kept the pharaonic bureaucracy running. But in their burials, we see a different story. Archaeologists have found warriors buried with Levantan-style daggers and even donkeys, a custom completely foreign to traditional Egyptians. Perhaps the most important legacy of the Hyksos was the technology they brought. Before them, the Egyptian army was made up of infantry with simple axes and bows. The Hyksos introduced a military revolution. The powerful composite bow, advanced bronze weapons, and most importantly, the horse-drawn chariot. This terrifying new weapon of war would change the face of battle forever. Down in the south, the Theban kings seethed with humiliation. A fragile peace held for a while, but according to legend, it was broken over a bizarre complaint. The Hyksos king, Apophis, hundreds of miles away in Avaris, supposedly sent a message complaining that the noise of the hippos in Thebes was keeping him awake at night. This insult, real or symbolic, sparked a war of liberation. The Theban king, Sekenenetau, led the charge but died gruesomely in battle. His mummy shows horrific wounds from a Hyksos battle. But the sons Kamos and then Amos I continued the fight. After a long and brutal war, Amos finally captured Avaris around 1550 BCE, driving the Hyksos leadership back into the Levant and reuniting Egypt. This victory marked the beginning of a new era, the New Kingdom, Egypt's Age of Empire. But the Hyksos were not simply erased. They had been in Egypt for over a century, and their influence was permanent. They shattered Egypt's isolationism, teaching them a hard lesson. The world was bigger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. To prevent another foreign invasion, the pharaohs of the New Kingdom became conquerors themselves, using the very chariots and weapons the Hyksos had brought to build a massive empire. The Hyksos weren't just foreign rulers. They were the necessary catalyst that pushed a sleeping giant onto the world stage and into its most glorious age. They were the invaders who, ironically, made Egypt great.